I am 32. Let my wife, F32, coerce me into opening the marriage. Struggling. We've been together for 5 years when it all began. There were occasional red flags from the start, but since I was inexperienced with relationships, I didn't see them as such. Over the years I believe to have developed a trauma bond with her, since I suffer from anxiety and I'm highly sensitive and she didn't always treat me well, especially when she was angry or emotional. For example, she once threatened to throw me out after a petty argument, was sometimes mocking me. When I had occasional performance issues in the bedroom, before I met her I never had any, and also never had a good relationship with my family. She always managed to find some faults they have, but from my point of view, apart from one argument, there was nothing bad happening. Being abroad away from my family and friends didn't help either. 5 years ago, when I was visiting my family after COVID, she invited a new colleague over to our house for a coffee and told me after I already left that she's planning this. After that, she suddenly started having almost daily calls, weekly walks, and texting 24/7, even at night, with him. We couldn't even go for a walk or eat a meal without her being on the phone texting. When I confronted her, she denied there was anything between them and accused me of being possessive and insecure. I tried to talk to her several times and set my boundaries, but it didn't bring anything. She always got defensive and angry. My mental health went on a downward spiral, as we were arguing almost daily, and she blamed me for negative energy and not smiling often enough. I almost didn't sleep and lost all libido. It went on like that until she asked if she could get sex somewhere else, since I'm not in the best form currently. I was shocked and questioned her whether she had someone in mind. She named that colleague as an option. I refused immediately. The blaming and pressuring to open the marriage went on for months. She claimed she can do whatever she wants with her body. Eventually, I went to the doctor and got diagnosed with severe depression. She kept claiming that she can stop her friendship with that guy anytime, if it's hurting me so badly. But she never did. Just tried to hide her texting better and got a mindfulness app and an online meditation course for me. Also, after trying to work on our sex life and telling her that the criticizing isn't helpful, she just claimed I'm oversensitive and she didn't do anything wrong, since everyone is responsible for their feelings. Eventually, I started at least reading up about this open relationship thing. Nothing I've read changed my mind. She kept trying to convince me despite my bad mental state and depression. Once, when I was crying in the bedroom because she was about to go meet him again, she came in and tried to force me to give her a permission to at least kiss him, because he kept asking and she felt bad about it when she had to deny him. That haunts me until now. A year ago, I told her that I can't do it, as it would destroy me mentally even more and it conflicts with my values and how I want my relationship to be. That we should work on our issues together or split. She got mad, blaming me for not being able to sacrifice myself for her. After that, I finally broke and failed myself, since after a couple of days of silent treatment from her I gave up and said we try it. I was so worn off that I couldn't fight anymore. I also convinced myself that having the option will be enough for her, as it will not be the forbidden fruits anymore. Since then, she was calm again. They've met every couple of weeks, but I thought it didn't turn physical as there were no clear signs of it. But once she was acting weird again, so I asked what she's been doing with him over the time. She admitted sleeping with him and turned it on me, that I'm suffocating and interrogating her like a cop. I was done with her at that point. But we were about to move a new house we were building together for the past 5 years. So, I stayed because it felt like a bad moment to leave. I didn't trust my head at all with all that anxiety and depression and didn't want to get even more stressed out, despite my gut feeling screaming to get the fuck out for 2 years. I also thought that a change of scenery and leaving that guy behind could still save things. But I was wrong. After moving, she would shut down regularly and spend hours locked up in the bedroom. She would blame me for bringing up old topics. When I tried to discuss her not acknowledging any of my feelings apart from turning it back on me with sentences such as, "I did underestimate your jealousy," and "I knew it would hurt you, but I needed it for myself." Eventually I found out that she's been already messaging some local guys over some dating sites and is searching for someone new then. For me, too much has been broken at this point. I feel somehow repulsed and mostly pissed at her. I know I've done this to myself. I need to and want to get out. So I slowly started planning my escape, getting important documents together, searching for a new place to stay and so on. But my brain keeps self-sabotaging and circling back and forth, just terrified of both staying and of leaving. Does anyone have similar experience? How did you break it and get out? TL. Dr. Wife started an emotional affair and eventually demanded open marriage. I resisted for a year but eventually gave in. She had sexual relations with 1 to 3 guys else since then. I've been suffering with anxiety and depression for almost the whole time. We moved to a new house in another state recently. I thought things are improving only to find out that she's been active on dating sites searching for sex partners again. Story 2. The universe wants me to live with you. L.E. So this actually happened about 2 years ago, but I still find it hilariously ridiculous that I wanted to share anyways. I, 20F at the time, and my wife, 21F at the time, are the first people in our group of friends to move out on our own. We have a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment, and we use the 2nd bedroom as an office for my wife's side business and hobbies. A friend, 21F, from high school that we haven't talked to since graduation recently had gotten into contact with us to reconnect with my wife. They were friends. I was more of an acquaintance with her. They both had some similar personal experiences since high school that I won't get into, but it basically led to her friend being kicked out of her parents' house and was now living with her aunt. Wife invited her over to hang out, and when she was over, I noticed the apartment perpendicular to ours was vacant and being renovated. So I offhandedly joked, "Oh, wouldn't it be so cool if you moved into there? It would be like friends." The following conversation went something like this. Friend: "Oh, that would be cool. Is it available?" Me: "I mean, they're renovating it right now, but I'm not sure if someone is in line for it. You should call the office Monday and ask." Friend: "Oh, okay." Now, seems perfectly normal and logical, right? Apparently not. I would not be able to predict what this would lead to in the following month if I was freaking Doctor Strange. So, 2 days later, it's my wife's birthday. We go on a day trip to Frankenmuth. Friend calls wife up and asks if she could spend the weekend at our place, saying she got into an argument with her aunt. Wife and I say sure, but we won't be back until late because of our trip. She says that's fine. She proceeds to text my wife almost hourly asking if we were on our way back yet, and that she was just waiting under the bridge near our place. We ignore her after the thirdish text until we are on our way back. It's about 1 a.m. when we come home, and we're both so tired we basically told her to take the couch and she was free to use our Netflix and that we were going to sleep. The next morning, my wife has already left for work. I walk into the living room to feed the cats, and I see that the friend has almost moved into the apartment. I'm talking fairy lights on above the couch, baskets of her clothes lined up against the wall. The couch is covered in her anime body pillows, which I did not expect, let me tell you. And she's laying back chillin' playing a ukulele. So I'm confused to say the least. I kind of just wave at her because I'm still waking up and I'm not entirely sure I'm not hallucinating. So I go into the kitchen and my sink is filled with dirty dishes. The counter has open jars of something, and it's basically a mess and 100% not how it was left last night. And I know for a fact it was not my wife who made the mess. I don't want to be rude without knowing the full story, and honestly I barely know this girl. So I feed the cats and go back to my room to text my wife a basically, "Hey, WTF is happening right now" text. I basically stay in my room the whole day to avoid her, and I wait for my wife to come home to handle whatever this is. To summarize the main parts of the next month, the story goes something like this. Friend went home from the original hangout and basically told her aunt we had an apartment lined up for her, so she was moving out. Aunt thought it was all so sudden that something wasn't right. Friend ignores her and basically asks if she can stay with us. Wife says yes, assuming she's staying for a few days. Friend then reveals that she plans to stay with us until the apartment across was open and ready for her. She has not applied or was approved for the apartment. We try to politely nudge her into applying into apartments around the area since we kinda don't know what to do with this information. She then sees a few days later a man moving into the apartment she apparently thought was hers and asks me what is going on. I proceed to tell her she didn't apply for the apartment, so I don't really know what she was expecting. I ask if she's applied to any apartments. She says no. I tell my wife to talk some sense into her friend. A few days later I come home to, again, lounging with fairy lights and a ukulele on my couch. I ask if she's applied to apartments. She says no and that she can't because she doesn't have income since she quit her job when moving. I ask if she's applied to any jobs. She says no. At this point it's been about 2 weeks and she has made my apartment a mess. She would leave dirty dishes and trash on my coffee table and in my sink, would sing and make noise constantly, and was frankly just overstaying her welcome beyond making me feel like a maid all of a sudden. So I politely bully my wife into fixing this since she's her friend and invited her in the first place. Wife takes her apartment hunting and friend has something to complain about with each one. Ceilings are too low, windows aren't big enough, that kind of thing. By the end of the day, wife is frustrated and friend turns to her and says the sentence that is the final nail in the coffin. I think the universe is telling me I'm supposed to stay with you guys in your apartment. To which my wife responds, the universe will bend, and then proceeds to take her to a hotel and make her stay there. Wife moves her stuff out of our apartment and into her car while talking to her like, what do you want to do with your life? And the conversation basically leads to my wife convincing her to buy a van and renovate and live in that and travel. The next day she asks if she can come back to our apartment. I tell my wife to tell her absolutely not and to stay at the hotel or go back to her aunt's. She ends up staying with her parents until she gets a van and then spends a month renovating it and then drives to LA while making music in her van. We haven't talked to her since. TLDR. Old high school friend thought an empty apartment across from mine was automatically hers. Proceeds to move into my apartment uninvited. Is disrespectful to my home and does not try to get her own place. Tries to get us to let her stay indefinitely. We convince her to renovate and move into a van. Story 3. BF cheated me and now I'm living my best life. This sub became one of my favorites lately, so now I want to share my personal experience. I, 28M at the time, had a BF, 28M of 8 years, where I practically did almost everything for, cooked, took care of housing, paid all the bills, etc. I thought I did gold by him. Throughout the relationship, I would do check-ins to see if there's any issues we may need to work on, and he never said anything was wrong. So I assumed we're working very well to the point of talking of marriage and future planning a wedding/future family. So on our 8th year, we finally moved in together. And one day, he left his phone on the counter. His phone is shit and the battery dies quickly. So I thought I'd be nice to charge his phone for him. When I tapped his phone to see how low his battery was, he had Grindr app open. So I went through it and saw all the guys he's been messaging and been hooking up with. When I confronted him, he admitted it's been going on for the past 3 years. This destroyed me and of course we ended things. Fast forward about 1.5 years later, I met someone amazing. My ex always talked about wanting to go to Coachella. So my new BF and I went 1 year. It was his idea. I saw every single one of his favorite artists there who he never seen before live, front and center. I made sure I took as many pictures and videos of them and uploaded them onto my Instagram, which I'm sure he sometimes creeps on. I left my profile on public for this exact reason. A few days after I uploaded, I checked and saw that he blocked me. No words were exchanged. I knew I won. Fast forward to today. Just came back from my 3rd Coachella and having an absolutely amazing new happy life. Bonus. My BF is from Hawaii, and now I have a free place to stay anytime I visit. Never been before him, and now I've gone there 3x already. Smiley face, success is the best revenge. Edit 1. I didn't expect to get this many reactions. Honestly expected maybe only 20 likes or whatever. But a minority of you are assuming a lot from someone you don't know. But that's your problem. Yes, of course I'm still hurt. Being cheated on from an 8-year relationship isn't something you just forget and move on from easily. I'm very happy with my new partner and enjoy building new memories. I thought the point of this was just to be petty faced with tears of joy. It's worrying some of you are defending my ex instead. You guys must be okay with cheating. Not responding to any more comments. Assume what you want, red heart. Edit 2. I'll answer questions about this year's Coachella LOL. Story 4. I harassed a female coworker and regret it to this day. Basically, I borderline harassed my boss and started a rumor about her. To start, I'll say this is definitely the worst thing I have ever done to someone. And I still deeply regret it, every day of my life as it should. I was working my first real job in a pretty small workplace, maybe 50 people in a small town in the middle of nowhere. The section I worked in was 3 people. A new employee, started working there a few months after I started. Right away, I was infatuated with her, but she would be taking the supervisor position over another person, B, and myself. I knew it was inappropriate, so I tried to stay in my lane and try to get over it. Fast forward a few months, A is our supervisor. A and B form a very strong bond. Most of their time was spent chatting while I still kept to myself and did my job. It may just be my own perception of the events, but she didn't seem to give a care about me, just the other guy. I could hardly ask her basic work questions without her getting annoyed. Because of my nature, I didn't have really any friends there, and my work situation meant I was separated from family, so every day was going into work and going to my apartment for a few hours, rinse and repeat. Around this time I start feeling neglected and isolated from the people around me, but partially. I know part of that loneliness because I still had feeling for her for some reason. This feeling compounded over days, weeks, months. As time goes by, my self-esteem crashes and I start getting anxious and depressed. The feeling of loneliness I had got replaced with a feeling that I was invisible and worthless, along with anger and jealousy because of how well my coworkers got along. I say all this to explain I was spiraling into mental illness, and I hope it provides some context for why I acted the way I did. So, it's been about 8 months since I started working there, and my bitter emotions possessed me. It grew to the point where I started suspecting that A and B were in some sort of sexual relationship, highly inappropriate for the workplace we were in. They flirted and even play-fought sometimes while I sat there and gritted my teeth. And driven by my jealousy of their friendship and potential relationship, I started keeping tabs on both of them. It was a small town, so I'd drive aimlessly, occasionally check their driveways to see if they met up on the weekends. Like I was a private detective or something stupid, going to narc on them if I saw anything. Not only that, over this time I kept getting worse and worse mentally. I started ignoring her and disrespecting her authority, getting into arguments with her because of how I felt I was mistreated. Even though I was deluded, I could see that she became very uncomfortable around me, and that upset me even more. Several times I was pulled aside and people checked on me, and I used their goodwill to spread the rumor that A and B were banging to get back at her. Never figured out if they did or not, probably for the best. Eventually it came out that I started the rumor, and I came to senses about how much I screwed up royally. I regretted everything I'd done and desperately tried to make amends. Not out of fear of punishment or anything, but I genuinely felt terrible for all the trouble I caused. Couldn't fix it, of course. She had good reason to hate me now. Spent some time in a psych ward to turn things around, and I'm doing much better now mentally. I recognized that how I treated her was horrible. To her credit, she never reported me or got me in trouble, and I am extremely grateful to her for that. But no one from that place would ever want to see me again, though, and that fact fills me with regret and sadness whenever I think about it.